acupuncture specifically is one of the fastest growing right now. Is that right?
Yeah, things have shifted because everyone's understanding that traditions and the power of traditional medicine is so good and good for your body.
Right.
It's healing people.
Right.
We are taught to normalize menstrual pain, PMS symptoms, but all of those symptoms are signals that your body is off of balance and that there's something you can do, because, you know, a true healthy woman does not have PMS symptoms and does not have menstrual pain. Systemically, acupuncture will put a lot of points on the feet, on the legs, and the arms to balance your hormones at first. And there's also cosmetic acupuncture, where we put needles on the face specifically to mimic Botox or fillers, using what your body has and stimulating what it needs to look young. We're warm-blooded, and so we love warm foods.
Cooking and having real whole foods is medicine. That is one of the best things you can do with your time. It is far more important than work. Hey, I am here in Culver City in Los Angeles, California. I'm going to pick up Dr. Felice Chan. Dr. Felice is a Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncturist. She has a wonderful clinic here in Culver City called Felice Acupuncture, and just has a fantastic perspective on healing the gut, on getting to the root cause of health issues from an alternative and functional medicine perspective. So I think you're going to love this, and let us know what you think. Hi. You gotta push it. There we go.
Gotta hold it.
Hi,
this is so exciting.
Thank you for being with us.
Oh,
Thanks
thank you
for
for
doing
having
this.
me.
This is gonna be awesome.
Oh my gosh, so excited.
Yeah, it's great. And it's a beautiful day.
It is.
All things considered. We're
Yes.
filming here
Yes.
in the middle of LA, trying to get these fires under control. And we are believing that they're gonna do that quickly.
Yes.
So we met through a mutual friend, Dr. Christina Telhami, and she had some funny things to say in the cooking fruit and cooking things. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Yes, I'm happy too.
But yeah, she was just telling me you just moved into this facility. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been so wonderful. I feel blessed to be able to be in a bigger space and a walking community.
Where are most of your patients coming from?
Honestly, all over LA. I've had a couple from San Diego, from OC, Ventura.
And is it mostly social media and awareness?
Yeah, I mean, social media, referrals. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that I am fascinated with. I mean, it's happening all across, America, but all across the world. And it's this kind of, I would say, decentralizing of healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So things are breaking apart, and you've got people like yourself that have these wonderful platforms online that are sharing helpful information that anyone can access for free at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this is just kind of the beginning of what we're going to see with
I think so too.
healthcare?
I mean, as we all know, there's so much distrust in, Western medicine or traditional allopathic Western medicine, because so many people have not gotten better. And most patients that I get in my clinic all come to acupuncture, Chinese medicine, because they haven't gotten better with Western medicine, right? And that's how they find us. And, in a perfect world, people find us before anything's actually diagnosed, because it truly in its nature is a preventative medicine where we get to the root before anything does happen, more severe.
And that's, I guess, and this is something, when we were talking before this, that I was really just jazzed about discussing with you. I mean, I'm going to refer to Americans because mostly Americans are watching us and we're an American company, but it really is people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
How do we help them get to the root cause versus just another Band-Aid fix, one on top of another? What are some of the top issues that you're getting, intake of clients?
So many. I think when people ask, what is Chinese medicine great for, as in acupuncture, herbs, lifestyle, diet adjustments, it's great for everything, because the whole premise of it is that we bring imbalances back into balance, and the balance is where you heal, right? It's our parasympathetic states where our nervous system can actually heal. But in clinic, I see a lot of patients for autoimmune issues. A lot of the times they come to us because they can't figure out what is wrong, right? They have all these symptoms, and doctors have, pushed them out of their own clinic to say, hey, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. But we can find their patterns and understand the root cause. So a lot of autoimmune issues, insomnia. A lot of people find Chinese medicine for pain because it's so effective and effective quickly. And they get better quickly. I get a lot of women's health, infertility, menopause, postpartum, even supporting through births as well.
Yep.
A lot of mental health, depression, anxiety.
So you're seeing
everything.
Okay, so taking kind of a step back, you just walk us through your background and how you got into this. And I know raised in Hong Kong, but I really want to hear kind of the roots, because I do think it's so fascinating. It's so helpful for people to know. And then it's really interesting that even in China right now, they're practicing more Western medicine than Eastern.
You know, Hong Kong versus China or Taiwan. China and Taiwan, Chinese medicine is more readily available.
Okay.
But I guess in Hong Kong, because of its cosmopolitan background and how international it is, there, at least when I grew up, it was kind of the hub for expats or expatriates coming to Hong Kong. And a lot of my friends and family are from the United States.
Okay.
But not just that, you know, let's say you go to a school in Hong Kong, you get your top grades, and you want to study medicine. You would go to school in the UK, study Western medicine, and come back.
So that's common to go to somewhere in Europe.
Exactly.
And then come back.
And so my background was Western medicine my whole life. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
You know, ingrained in who I was.
Was it since you were little?
Since I was like 6 or 7.
Wow.
I was always fascinated. Even when I was in middle school, starting 10 years old, I found doctors to shadow.
Wow.
It was something that fascinated me, and I knew it was, you know, meant for me.
And all of them were practicing more Western medicine.
Correct.
Was there any introduction when you were small to Eastern medicine?
Yes, I would say as a lifestyle and household. So the way that we ate, our food, all whole foods, we go to the markets every day, and a lot of Chinese herbs were in our soups, in our teas.
Interesting.
And the lifestyle of incorporating movement and balance. That's the part of Chinese medicine that was ingrained in my culture and my upbringing. However, acupuncture was not. You know, I was always lucky. I was a healthy kid, never really had to seek out alternative routes, even in Hong Kong. And my first acupuncture treatment wasn't until I came to the US when I was, you know, 22.
Wow. And then why did you first go to acupuncture?
Yeah, so long story short, you know, I studied neuroscience, I studied pre-med in college, I worked in a hospital for a few years after, and that something just didn't sit right. I was looking for something that, or a medicine that got to the root issue, right? And not just a Band-Aid. And in the hospital, I felt really frustrated because so many of, you know, the treatments, it was steroids for kids with debilitating eczema. You know, it was medication for so-and-so. And it was part of my spiritual awakening that I didn't want to be in a medicine that didn't help and heal people and get to the root cause. That's when I met my husband. You know, his mother is a shamanic healer.
Wow.
He took me to my first acupuncture treatment.
Wow.
I was more so curious.
Thank you to your husband.
Exactly. I had bad allergies then. A couple years before that, I started developing horrible seasonal allergies, but allergies in general. And I have, you know, now learned that I was in just such an inflammatory state.
Yep.
I was drinking smoothies every single morning, cold smoothies.
Okay.
I was sneezing 10, 15 times every morning. And I did that for about a year, and I had no idea why. I had no clue. And I went to this acupuncturist. I was speaking about how I was curious. I dropped all my applications for, you know, traditional med school. And then I applied to Chinese medicine school and came out to LA.
Jeez. So you just dropped and totally 180'd. I think that's the interesting thing that's going on culturally right now in the U.S. Obviously, as someone who grew up in the U.S., all you know is Western medicine. All you know is going into the doctor.
Exactly.
And where we sit right now, I mean, the reality is that 74% of Americans are obese or overweight, which this is not about vanity at all. We've been talking about this a lot. It has nothing to do with looks or beauty. It has everything to do with the actual, you know, capacity of that human being to achieve what they want to achieve, right? Whether that's building a family, whether that's professional goals, whatever it is, living a life, right? Living a long life. I mean, that's going to hold them back from everything. And it causes obviously a lot of metabolic dysfunction and then a whole host of issues. So this is a huge problem, obviously. And then, you know, you look at healthcare as the largest and fastest growing industry. A lot of people, obviously, when you would ask them, what do you think the fastest growing industry is? They'd say something from maybe like tech or AI, right? All these different things that seem big and growing fast, which they are, but it's actually healthcare. And what's so awful about that is that, yes, it's the largest and fastest growing, but we're also seeing the worst results from it. So you have to look at, okay, there's something here that's just not right.
I mean, when my twin sister and I moved to the US for college.
You have a twin?
I have a twin.
Wow, that's so cool. I want to hear about that.
She's my best friend and she's amazing. We're actually starting a company together
Wow.
rooted in traditional Chinese medicine.
Super cool.
So that's been so fun.
Yeah.
But we moved here for college, and when we did, she developed gut issues right away because we weren't used to eating the foods, the processed foods, the quality of even fresh foods, right? Because of the soil, everything changed.
Yes.
I had acne issues. And yes, of course, we were in a new environment. We were college kids, right? We were drinking, we were having fun. But there was so much more to it. And it goes down to nutrition, health, and lifestyle. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the way that we eat is so nourishing. There's not a lot of oils. It's steamed, it's all whole foods. And we drank that. I mean, we ate that every day, and also drank a broth soup every single meal.
Like a bone broth?
Essentially. So our broths, it was, a high collagen meat with the bone inside.
Okay.
And we would boil it with herbs or, some type of sweetness to pair, because sweetness is great for the spleen and our digestion.
Yes.
Sweetness as in, papaya or apple, something as a fruit. Jujube dates, goji berries. Then we'd simmer this soup or broth for 3-4 hours, and we'd drink it every single night for dinner.
Okay, so this is something else that I really think has broken down in America, and I know, has been cooking. Cooking and just the reality that, I'm running a company with my husband. We have a small child. I completely understand just the day-to-day demand of time. However, cooking and having real whole foods is medicine. That is one of the best things you can do with your time. It is far more important than work.
Oh, for sure.
And yet we are seeing this breakdown, and some of it is societal. Some of it is you've got a lot of single mothers raising children, and it's quite literally impossible with time. So there's a lot of situations that are very difficult. However, we have to try and incorporate in our culture to get back to some of this, where we actually treat cooking as if it were creating your medicine.
Food is medicine, and it's one pillar of Chinese medicine, right? We have acupuncture as one pillar, herbal medicine, and herbal medicine to heal issues. Then we have food as medicine, how we eat every single day, and then our lifestyle, that incorporates gentle movement, walking, qigong, tai chi, and how we live our life, a low stress life.
When you're treating patients for stress, obviously there's practical things through acupuncture and release of stress, right? Physical release and things that you can do for them. So what are some of your recommendations that you're giving patients when it comes to stress, and what are some of the top 2 or 3 things that you're telling them to do?
Of course, whenever a patient comes in, yes, we can treat them in clinic, but the healing journey, most of it happens outside of clinic and what they do day to day. And so I always speak to them, hey, yes, we have changed your system to be more in balance, and to be able to continue that when you go home. There's a few practices that are awesome, and in Chinese medicine we always say it's the yin practice. It's the yin of the yang. And these yin practices always emphasize our nervous system being in the parasympathetic state.
Okay.
So what is it? And I always recommend some type of mindfulness. If your mindfulness is journaling, if it's breath work, if it's meditation, go do it. Find what brings you joy and is not too difficult. A lot of people feel more stressed out to have to meditate. They're like, oh, I'm so bad at meditation, it's really hard. I'm like, then you don't have to do that. Maybe breath work and following a guide is better. Maybe journaling and writing out your thoughts, because your body is able to be in the state of a parasympathetic state where you actually can heal, and that's where all healing happens.
Diet wise, because obviously that's causing stress physically, right? Inflammation, stress. What are some of the first things that you recommend? We talked about kind of the smoothies, cold food, right?
I would say the most important is have a protein-rich breakfast. If it's hard for you to cook, if it's hard for you to eat throughout the day, the most important meal is breakfast. In Chinese medicine, our digestive organs, which are our spleen and stomach, the times that they're most active is between 7 in the morning and 11. If you don't eat then, if you're fasting every day or you're too busy to have a breakfast, they get weaker over time. And the gut is the core central to our energy, what we say our qi. It's also gut health. And so we need to feed our organs during those times to then give the rest of our body energy, because everything starts from our digestion, right? We get all the nutrients from our spleen and stomach. It goes into the small intestine to absorb and then gets dispersed to the rest of the body. And if you don't have that initial boost in the morning, you're going to feel tired, you're going to feel fatigued, you're going to feel more stressed. So breakfast, I always say mindfulness, breakfast, and if they can, find balance, right? figure out what they can do to de-stress themselves if they're in a stressful situation.
And I totally got caught into all of this as well in my mid-20s, early 20s, this cultural, you're a boss, go for it, grind. And it's a uniquely American thing.
Yeah.
But it's really, really toxic. It's really bad because then you interrupt your sleep. It becomes like this badge of honor to work a bunch. And then what goes out the window? Well, your hormone health. A lot of women lose their periods. It's really, really terrible. Thyroid health, right? I mean, it all kind of blends together. And then unfortunately, what we are seeing with a lot of women that then you hit 30, 35, and you're like, oh man, I really want to have children. They're having a really hard time with that. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? There's many, many causes, as I'm sure you're seeing that with women that are working on hormone health or fertility. And so I'm seeing a lot more communication and a lot more of, just the facts and science behind it of, you need to have a high quality protein rich breakfast. And there's so much back and forth on whether fasting is good or not. I think for women that are, specifically for women who are focused on hormone health, focused on things like PCOS, focused on things that are really impacting this generation of women of reproductive age, eating in the morning is a good idea.
It helps lower their cortisol, it helps lower their glucose levels, and glucose spikes, and
stable.
Absolutely.
The Chinese medicine perspective of gut health. Let's just kind of take that. And I read, by the way, Dr. Felice has a wonderful ebook, right? Is that what you would call it? On gut health. It's awesome. I read it this weekend and really enjoyed it. So I'd, highly recommend if you are curious about the Chinese medicine perspective that you would download that. But what is your kind of high level on gut health? And I think one of the things that I liked in that ebook were the types of foods that you recommend and how to prepare them.
Yeah, I mean, gut health in a nutshell is connected to the rest of the body, right? As I mentioned before, it's the first thing that receives food and our energy. And now we know that the gut and brain, the gut-brain axis, everything is connected. And in Chinese medicine, it's always been connected. The way that we see our gut health and how it distributes and contributes to a lot of health issues. We're warm-blooded, and so we love warm foods. Yes, we can have a salad here and there. Yes, you can have watermelon juice in the summer, but also it's all about balance. If you're having a smoothie every single morning, first of all, it's a big glucose spike. We're drinking our fruits, not eating it, and we're losing that fiber that we need to hold down the glucose level. Second of all, it's really cold. And if you shock your body with cold water in the morning, we say that it's going to dampen and diminish your digestive fire. And without a digestive fire, your digestion gets impacted. You're not going to be able to absorb foods to the max. You're not going to be able to process foods, and you're going to develop a lot of issues like bloating, even IBS, ulcerative colitis in the future, if you keep doing these patterns that aren't meant for our body.
As far as, dietary things to avoid and things to add in, I think that's also, I'm curious about the Chinese medicine perspective, because I think there are a few foods that are newer to people, right? And there are different. I think if you want to walk through those, that's something that's very helpful. I found it very helpful, and something, frankly, that we went and added to our grocery list.
I mean, things we can find easily, Japanese sweet potatoes, for example. And I steam them. I don't bake them because baking takes out the nourishment and the yin nature of it, which is gentle to our body.
So you steam everything on the stove? Or do you
I steam it on the stove. I mean, yes, I bake things here and there, but for sweet potatoes, I will steam them.
What other vegetables do you think are better steamed?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's a lot of Chinese vegetables that I eat, bok choy, choy sum, like Chinese broccoli. Sometimes they even steam, our general American broccoli that we have. Steamed carrots. I'll sprinkle, the vegetables with some olive oil, sometimes a little bit soy sauce, salt, pepper.
And are you mostly grocery shopping right now at stores, or are you trying to do farmers markets? What's your perspective of that, and anything to just like downright avoid at the grocery store?
Oh, so interesting. I mean, I always prefer farmers market over grocery store. Obviously I'll go to the grocery store if I can't make it to the farmers market, if I need some necessities that I can't get. But I mean, when we think about farmers market food, yes, they're mostly organic. And you have to ask now. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are. You're supporting local farms. You can also see and feel the vegetables that haven't been stored for a while. It's fresh. My favorite, I mean, there's one in Mar Vista that I go to a lot, and they have a huge vegetable stand, and they have all the Chinese vegetables that I love. We have pea sprouts that I love. They have bok choy all the time. They have even, bitter melon or bitter gourd, and they have some melons that I used to put in soups and stir fry when I was younger. And it's so fun and amazing. And they're not hard to cook. You steam them or you stir fry them and a little bit of garlic and whatever you want, and they're delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're gonna just try and find some parking here. Cool. Perfect. Really curious about talking about is kind of what you see is like, where do you see the next few years, but like where do you see the future of medicine in America? The alternative medicine or acupuncture specifically is one of the fastest growing right now. Is that right?
Yeah, ever since COVID, right, or the whole world experienced COVID together, and at least in China and Hong Kong and Taiwan and the Asian cities, and also here, especially I was in clinic then at my school when it first hit. The only thing that was actually curing COVID was Chinese medicine with herbal formulas, because they're symptom specific, and also acupuncture, and people were getting better. And so the first Chinese medicine hospital was built in Hong Kong towards the end of COVID. And that kind of just shows that this medicine is growing and growing, and people are seeking it out because it's natural. It's completely natural. It's holistic. It really gets to the root of problems, and people feel and get better. It's individualized as well, right? During COVID, if you're here, you are on Dayquil, NyQuil, whatever, Advil, Panadol, whatever you can get your hands on to reduce inflammation and fever. But in Chinese medicine, it's symptom based, right? When you have a cold or a flu, your symptoms change. Sometimes it starts as a sore throat, then your nose gets stuffy. You have postnasal drip, maybe turns into a cough. So at every stage, the herbs or formulas are different. For a cough, let's say you'd have cooling herbs and you would drink different teas. Peppermint is great because it's cooling to combat the heat in your throat. On the contrary, let's say you're feeling shivery and cold, you need warming herbs such as ginger, and drinking ginger tea is best.
Yes. When you say Chinese medicine hospital, what's the scale as compared to just like your average hospital that you would, picture in your head in America?
I would say, at least almost not like a big scale hospital like Kaiser, but maybe one building of it.
And is it someplace where people are like staying overnight, like a true kind of hospital? I mean, or is it more of
it's more clinic based, more clinic based, where everything's revolved around treatments. When we think about it, it wasn't, or at least Chinese medicine isn't as regulated as Western medicine, and because of this whole overarching understanding of Western medicine, pharmaceuticals, money.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So now though, you have a Chinese medicine hospital built in Hong Kong. So is there more, openness to this in China as well?
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
That's fascinating.
I mean, it's funny because when there's this boom for Westernization, there's this strive for the American dream. I mean, my parents were immigrants. They came here, they got citizenship for us, and I feel grateful to be in this country. But things have shifted because everyone's understanding that traditions and the power of traditional medicine is so good and good for your body.
Right.
It's healing people.
Right.
And it's becoming big in the West. There's actual schools here that have such structure and licensing underneath it. So I went to school for 5 years.
I was just gonna say, I think people don't realize that when you say Chinese medicine, what that entails. So this is something I do think is fascinating right now in America. So we have several of our siblings, aunts, uncles, family members who are physicians.
Yeah.
We have deep respect for them.
Yeah.
However, I think also there is a shift in just very practically, there being more adoption everywhere of functional and alternative medicine, period. I mean, you see whether it's Dr. Weil's school, right, that he has, I believe it's through ASU. You're seeing now physicians wanting to get certified in functional medicine so that they can treat the body more functionally.
Yes.
All of these very positive sides. And it's really interesting because I think there's also going to be a shift in credentialing. Yeah. And I don't know what that looks like, but the traditional med school, it ought to at least incorporate more dietary and functional med,
Which
right?
yes.
Which it hasn't, exactly. So, I mean, that's, again, I like to see kind of like the low-hanging fruit, right, that hopefully we will see with even some of the administration change and everything else. But the certification for Chinese medicine, so there's actual schools, right? And I think this is good because this kind of destigmatizes some of what people think is like why they wouldn't trust it or whatever. But
there's many Chinese medicine specific schools.
Yeah.
And the one I went to in California, Emperor's College, it was a 4 years master's program. And after your 4 years master's program, you know, it's 2 years, mostly lectures, 2 years in clinic. You learn both Western and Eastern medicine. It's a very intense course. I spent another 6 months post master's program to study for the licensing board.
So, okay, so there's a board.
Yeah, there's a board, exactly. There's a national board and a specific California board. I mean, just like any other alternative medicine, California chooses to have its own credentials and board. And so it is very, very much, it's structured. What is taught is amazing. And then I continue my education to get a doctorate as well. California is one of the best places because people are open to alternative health. People understand that it works and it's good for you. New York as well, you know, all the big cities, Chicago. In the middle area of the country too, because clinics are not as accessible, right? So let's say there's one acupuncturist. I had an acupuncturist friend who moved to Mississippi, and she was the only acupuncturist within like a 56-mile radius. So people would drive to go see her, and she was also doing really well. But that also shows that there's not enough of us out there. So we need more physicians and practitioners out there.
Right.
But at the same time, you also get more stigma against it. Like, what is this, right? Why are you here? But when people go and they get a good experience and they get better, they're going to share it with people they know.
That's right. I don't know if you saw this. I mean, going back to COVID and kind of some of the Chinese medicine practices, there was a lot of censorship, right, around
for sure,
around all of these things. And it's interesting. Just a few days ago, I was listening to some of the conversation on Joe Rogan's podcast with Mark Zuckerberg talking about their change in their policies, and they're going to go to more of a community notes type of style, like a X or Twitter, right, has. And I think that's smart, right? It's brilliant. But it's also, there was a lot that was censored. There was a lot of practical especially alternative medicine that was censored. And I don't know about you. I mean, that's one of the things I'm excited about right now, because I think that that's going to be, people are going to call that out more and more.
I mean, and the way that it works, as you said, right, physicians will refer their patients to get acupuncture when they need help with pain or things that don't work. But it shouldn't be a last resort, because as a medicine, it's not a last resort medicine. It's supposed to be preventative medicine, right? And that's how it stems. And you know, I see a vision and a future of America where insurance will cover preventative health. Insurance only covers when you're sick, right? And that's a backwards model. If they're able to cover acupuncture and easily cover it, then people are going to come to acupuncturists more. They're going to get better and feel better before even something's diagnosable from a Western standpoint. And in Chinese medicine, that's when their balances are too far off balance where it's diagnosable. But there's so much space in between their balance and when they're diagnosed that we can bring them back into balance where they're the most healthy.
I think you're right. I think that it's going to take some time, but I think that, and this is what I'm very, very optimistic about and very focused on, right, with our day-to-day work and what we're going to be doing. It's a proactive versus a reactive model. That's the idea. We have to get to that. We have to get to that. The whole agenda and mandate of making America great, that's fine, but America can't be great. Any nation cannot be great if you're not first mentally and physically healthy. That's just how it starts. I mean, that's how it starts. You can't, any nation, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. That's the grounds for being a strong and healthy community, family, nation, right? All of that. And we're far from that right now, but I do think that's a very strong vision for our country, and I think that it's possible. I do. The most amazing thing, and this is what I keep going back to, is the human body is miraculous in that it will heal. Like, the human body will heal, and it responds. So the body responds so well to changing your diet. The body responds so well to these consistent, it doesn't happen overnight, but consistent changes and consistent treatment. So
yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
The other thing I wanted to make sure we talked about, because it is such a big topic right now, is women's health and hormone health. And I would love your perspective of that, of, you know, what types of cases and what are the kind of, you know, common cases that you're seeing in your practice, and then what women can do to really focus on hormone health. And I think, you know, there's different stages, right, of this, but I'm speaking mainly to the woman who's our age, right, of reproductive age. Maybe they're in, you know, marriage relationship and they're wanting to have children, or that's something that they might want to do in the future. What are some of the things that you would just recommend to women?
You know, I mean, the biggest advice I can give is your menstrual cycle is an indication of how healthy your body is, right? If there's anything off balance, we are taught to normalize menstrual pain, PMS symptoms, whether it's irritability, breast tenderness, you know, mood swings, feeling depressed or emotional, right? All of these have been normalized where you're like, oh, you're just PMSing. But all of those symptoms are signals that your body is off of balance and that there's something you can do because, you know, a true healthy woman does not have PMS symptoms and does not have menstrual pain.
Yeah. And look, we have like industries like Midol now that
Exactly.
totally normalize it and almost celebrate it, the stigma, which is really, it's a great point you bring up. It's really backwards, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and to teach young girls early on that when they're 12 or 13 and get their first menarche or menstrual cycle, right? That if they're feeling pain, if they're feeling whatever symptoms, go see an alternative medicine doctor. Chinese medicine is one of the best because they're able to pinpoint these symptoms are showing a certain underlying pattern and they're going to bring you back into balance. So then you're not put on birth control. Then you're not put on, you know, antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication, because a lot of the times I see a lot of women in their late 20s, early 30s, where they're just like, I haven't been in my body for years. I was put on birth control when I was an early teenager. Then I was put on all these pharmaceuticals and I haven't been in tune with my body, right? When you're on birth control, your brain doesn't talk to your ovaries. There's a disconnection with hormone production. And that's one of the biggest issues that I've, you know, seen in clinic where there's no talking, you know, and so everyone comes in, whether they want to get pregnant, whether they are, you know, postpartum, whatever stage they're in their woman's health, we're then able to understand what is causing their symptoms. We go down to the root pattern from a Chinese medicine standpoint, and when we can heal that root, all the cascading symptoms start to dissipate.
That's awesome.
Right?
And it's symptoms like skin health, right?
I mean, skin health, headaches.
Yeah.
I mean, when we say hormonal health, all tied to women's health, right?
One of the things that I'm excited about personally, you know, exploring and using is acupuncture for skin health. And there's obviously, I think that the trend hopefully is going out, but there's obviously a lot of demand for these fillers and Botox and everything, which we're learning more and more about the toxicity of them. And it's quite dangerous, right? And so, yes, obviously we want to look young and beautiful. I'm not against that at all. But man, I mean, there is a lot of truth and thankfully a lot of people that are starting to speak up about this, you know, whether it's Botox poisoning or whatever. And I want to hear about how you use acupuncture for skin health, because I think that's something that alone, especially in a city like Los Angeles, I would imagine is just very sought after.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share this. I mean, first of all, the skin is a manifestation of what's happening inside our body, right? So systemically, acupuncture will put a lot of points on the feet, on the legs, and the arms to balance your hormones out first. And there's also cosmetic acupuncture where we put needles on the face specifically to mimic Botox or fillers, right? Because it stimulates, you know, microtrauma essentially. It sends inflammatory pathways there, but it also means your collagen is building faster. We're going to fill up different areas. We're going to activate muscles that lift your face up, which Botox does, right? And it takes consistent treatments, but it lasts longer. It's completely natural.
Right.
You're using what your body has and stimulating what it needs to look young.
Is this a newer practice, or has this been something that's been done for ages?
It's been done for ages. But I mean, obviously bringing it to the Western world, it's, you know, but people don't really know about it. And I think they're fearful because it looks like a lot of needles, but they're so thin. You can fit 30 to 40 of these, you know, acupuncture, facial needles.
I've done acupuncture.
It's not hypodermic needles.
It's nothing.
You don't feel it, you know. But I mean, you know, again, skin health is it's all about your lifestyle. Again, the 4 pillars of Chinese medicine, including, you know, health and lifestyle and wellness. And then that brings me to my next point, why my sister and I are starting a Chinese medicine skincare line, which is just full of herbs, Chinese herbs that are great for the skin, but every single herb you can also eat. And trying to teach that, you know, and trying to share to people a lifestyle that you can have that is going to then make you feel radiant and beautiful, because it all comes from how you feel.
And your skin is your largest organ, as we know, and it's absorbing what you put on it anyways. So you should feel comfortable putting on, you know, whatever you're putting on your skin, eating it. That's a very great way of explaining to people that, you know, it is something that's worth putting on your skin, because you could eat it. So that's awesome. When you launch that, please let us know. We'd love
for sure. We launch end of March. We've been working on this for the past year.
Wow, congrats. We know the drill. It's a labor of love, and it's something that you just stay consistent with, and products are very fun, but they're challenging. That's very, very exciting. Is there anything else? I mean, we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes, but is there anything else that you think would be just helpful, or tips or tricks or anything, kind of some of the common things, and where people obviously can find you and all of that?
Of course. I mean, a few tips is, Chinese medicine is not accessible to everyone because you have to pay for these treatments, right? And a lot of insurance doesn't cover it. And it's almost seen as a luxury in the Western world, whereas, back in Asia, it's so affordable. And there's ways that you can heal from a holistic standpoint and Chinese medicine standpoint at home and how you eat, right? Some of my favorite herbs or teas that you can get anywhere that are so great for the body because it's detoxing, it boosts your blood. My favorite is goji berries. I eat them like raisins, I also steep them in tea and drink it as a tea. So goji berries are my favorite, jujube dates. I also love chrysanthemum tea. Chrysanthemum tea is something that I grew up drinking whenever I had dim sum. You order chrysanthemum tea because it's cooling, it detoxifies you, and it's paired well with dim sum, which could be heavy, right?
Yes.
So then you're having balance in your food. That's Chinese medicine in itself.
Yes.
Peppermint tea is great for the face. It's also very cooling. If you're having stomach issues, bloating issues, or even menstrual cramps, ginger tea is the best because it's warming. I mean, these are things that, I use on the daily, weekly, that I incorporate medicine in my household as food.
That's awesome. And for those that are local, where can they find you if they are looking for a treatment?
For those who are local, I have a clinic in Culver City called Felice Acupuncture. I have a team working with me. So there's 3 acupuncturists working there, and we all have expertise as well. It's on the website. I also do virtual consultations. And instead of acupuncture, it's a protocol of health and wellness, but also Chinese herbs.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen.
We're going to go to the clinic now and get a treatment.
Yes, so I'm so happy to share. You're going to love it. It's going to be great.